The Houston Texans hit an important benchmark for the preseason. Preseason game number 1 in the books. What did I observe from that? What's the biggest thing coming out of that preseason game? D'Amico Ryans with some good news on CJ Gardner-Johnson. Talk a little bit more about the safety situation and beyond. Plenty to get into ahead of a big week. This is where the preseason really starts to move fast. You start to dial in and pay just a little bit more attention to some of the things that are coming out. D'Amico Ryans with an intriguing piece of information that he threw in there after the game. We'll talk about that and so much more. The 11 big observations from that preseason game is where we will start. I'll answer your questions along the way. Of course, Super Chats go to the front of the line. Membership gifts go to the front of the line. And if you are a member of the channel, thank you so much for your support. Let's start with the very first thing. Davis Mills was excellent. You saw how this offense is going to operate throughout the course of the season under Nick Caley, and you want to be able to get the football out on time. You talked about, or the Texans talked about recently, how on the offense, they've got to be able to get things out on time. They've got to be able to play on schedule. Obviously, they need to protect well, and that first team offense did a fantastic job on that long touchdown drive that ended with the play action rollout play that was nearly identical to the one they got Xavier Hutchinson a touchdown in the scrimmage from West Virginia, and that was the play action rollout to Braxton Berrios there in the preseason game, and that Davis Mills led touchdown drive. Good job by Berrios with the catch and taking care of the business. But Mills, with the couple of passes that he did have, he got the ball out. And if Blake Fisher hadn't allowed a little bit of pressure over on the right side, I'm not also sure we get to the Berrios play. He might have hit Cade Stover for a touchdown in the end zone. It's a really good drive by Davis Mills. And again, that's not going to be the entirety of the offense, but in a good, perfect situation, the Texans are going to be able to get rid of the ball on time. They're going to be able to have some longer developing plays that are well blocked, and they're going to have that quick game available to stymie any sort of pass rush, and Mills was getting rid of it quick. It's a really good job by him. Really good first drive. We'll talk about some of the other heroes from that first drive as well here in just a moment, but I thought Davis Mills looked excellent in that drive. He's had a really good training camp. It is good that they have Davis Mills, because if Kedon Slovis or Graham Mertz was the backup, they'd be in trouble. We'll talk about Mertz here in just a minute. Ariante Ursery, the rookie tackle from Minnesota, didn't get challenged much in this one. The ball was out quick, so there was no like long pass blocking rep for Ursery. The one where I did see a defender kind of try to use speed, Ursery just like a bouncer, navigated them past the quarterback. So there was nothing there to worry about or a freak out. And then in the run game, I felt like Ursery moved a couple of bodies. Now, there weren't a lot of just like grab a guy, move him down the field like, some comedic moment in a football movie. But there was one Daria Ogunbowale run where Ursery closed the door and kept the door closed as the defender kind of understood that it was coming back his way and was going towards that gap, and Ursery just held the guy up. So not a lot of challenge for Ursery in this one. I would have loved to see him play not only a lot more in this one, but also on both sides of the line in case eventually they still need him at right tackle. But it's pretty apparent with the way that the Texans have treated Ursery the past few weeks, as well as how he operated there in the preseason game. Ariante Ursery is going to start for the Houston Texans. Now, there's three different scenarios. He either is the left tackle because Cam Robinson is not healthy. He's either the left tackle because he's just better than Cam Robinson, or he's the right tackle because they want Cam Robinson to be the left tackle. But it is apparent at this point that the rookie out of Minnesota is going to start. Would I have a preference on where they start him? I actually prefer him at left tackle because the best right tackle in camp so far has been Titus Howard, and the opportunities and the time that he has had there at right tackle, specifically mostly over this past week out in West Virginia when myself and Landry Locker were there to observe the practices at the Greenbrier. I feel like Ursery can be the best left tackle and Titus Howard is the best right tackle. Now, does that weaken the guard spot? We can have that discussion, but there's certainly some contenders for that spot. Speaking of starters, Jake Andrews is going to win the center battle. It feels to me like it is been pretty close between Patterson and Andrews, but Andrews' performance in the preseason game, both in run blocking and pass blocking, to me feels like he's been ahead of Patterson. He did well in the preseason game. D'Amico Ryans talked about it. When the lights come on, how do you do? Andrews has played 70 some odd snaps in the NFL in the 2 years that he's been in the league. So to get out there, get some snaps in a game against uniforms that aren't your team's uniforms, I felt like he did a really good job. And I feel like he's going to be the starting center for this team, with Jaret Patterson being the backup at the center position, and maybe some more center backup somewhere on the depth chart. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. But Andrews has done a good job coming in as a waiver claim. Obviously has some familiarity with Cole Popovich, but they needed more complete play out of the center position last year because Scruggs could pass block, but he couldn't run block. Flip that. Scruggs could run block, but he couldn't pass block, and Patterson could pass block, but he couldn't run block. They need someone who's a bit more complete. Andrews has showcased that, and so I believe he's going to be the starting center for the Houston Texans in the Week 1 matchup against the LA Rams. Now, of course, if he gets hurt, then he's not, but you get the drift. Speaking of backup center depth, not out of juice just yet. Juice Scruggs had a pretty rough start to camp. He'd been sort of in a mix and myriad of options throughout and across the offensive line. But over the past week or so in West Virginia, playing some right guard when Titus Howard was at right tackle, even playing some left guard in place of Laken Tomlinson, with Andrews and Ursery out there protecting CJ Stroud. Scruggs has had some moments, and I felt like he had some nice moments in this game as well. There was some looking for work elements to his game where there was nobody to block and he just went and found somebody, but I also felt like he did a pretty good job with what he was assigned to do on that offensive line. And the versatility that Scruggs has presents an intriguing option for him along the offensive line. He can play left guard, he can play right guard, he can play center as well. And that's a really good piece to have as a depth piece. Now, of course, if Titus Howard's going to play right tackle, Scruggs has every opportunity to go win that right guard spot. Ed Ingram is his chief competitor for that spot, so it could go down to Ed Ingram and Juice Scruggs. But I would have told you last week, the week before, Juice Scruggs, the 55th, 56th man for a 53-man roster. I would believe they'd have a hard time getting rid of Juice Scruggs after the last week or so. Again, you don't take too much into account off of a preseason game, but Scruggs has put some good days together over the past week between practices and the preseason game. So that is why I would say he'd be making the roster. While we stick with the offensive line, Blake Fisher's not getting it done. It's not good from Blake Fisher. He allowed the pressure early to get to Davis Mills early, kept Mills from connecting with Cade Stover. He had a false start on one of the drives. He allowed some more pressure as things went on. It just hasn't looked good for Blake Fisher. He's clearly behind Ariante Ursery from the right tackle conversation. He's clearly behind Titus Howard from the right tackle conversation. So there is not a lot to like about Blake Fisher. It's going to be difficult to not see him ending up on this roster. I don't believe they would go ahead and cut a former second-round pick in just the second year with the team. But if you found the Blake Fisher at a different position for another team that the Texans were maybe a little light in and they wanted to do a little swap, they should have that conversation. They should think those thoughts. Not great, not ideal that Blake Fisher's in this situation, but thank goodness they have Ariante Ursery, because if they were betting on Fisher and Zach Thomas was the best option behind him, they'd be in a world of trouble. So those are 5 of the 11. We'll get to the rest of them here in a minute, but I want to feature and talk to you in the chat. Get in there live. You're watching this after the fact. The comment section, of course, is rolling as well. I must Pandeline. She's been a fantastic supporter of this channel for 5 months. Hello. Happy Sunday, everybody. Texans football is back. So exciting. It is indeed back and exciting. Good to see you, D-Love. Derek, appreciate you. H-Town's Ultimate. Ado, let's go H-Town. O-line looked good at the beginning. They certainly did. They certainly did. Panda would remind you to hit the like button. James R., can we spend an extended period talking about how awful D'Angelo Ross is? If you've watched any of my stuff, you know my feelings on D'Angelo Ross. He allowed quite a few receptions in this one. Doyle notes Mills looked good. Peter, we're very fortunate to have Mills as a quality backup. I do believe Davis has got to be one of the 10 best backups in all of football. So certainly a good thing that he has stuck around after, you get a new quarterback. Sometimes that guy wants to move on. Not the case. Davis Mills has stuck around. M&D Productions likes Money Mills. JB Allen, the Annihilator, a big Ursery left tackle supporter. The best scenario would be left tackle because Ursery is better at left tackle. I could certainly see that. Blake Fisher should be ashamed of himself. I don't know if he can fix it. I don't know if he can pull himself out of this situation that he has put himself in. So, Doyle, appreciate you for being a new member. Thank you so much. Appreciate the support. And let's see, two more comments. We'll get to Jaylin Noel here in just a second. Chargers need a right tackle. Trade Fisher out of here. Mike's looking for a landing spot for Blake Fisher before this thing all gets going. Carl, appreciate you. My friend from Germany, Phil Yarling. Appreciate you. DeRhino, go live more often, damn it. Careful what you wish for, DeRhino. So appreciate everybody in the comment section. Let's get to some more of those observations from the preseason game. EJ Speed showcased why he's here. He's big, he's strong, he's physical, he's played a lot of football, so things don't look new or unfamiliar to him. He diagnosed some plays well, and he went out there and thumped a couple of Vikings players, and he is a key backup for this team. He goes out there, he can play special teams. He's a solid body to have in behind Azeez Al-Shire and Christian Harris and Henry To'o as a guy that he's got to learn whatever this defense wants him to do, but he's played a lot of football and he's still a physical specimen that can impact the game with his physicality. So I liked seeing that out of EJ Speed in this one. I really felt like actually a lot of the linebackers had some nice moments. Nick Neiman had some good moments, so did Hansen. And then Jamal Hill had a really nice play as well, nice little stuff there at one point. So some really good stuff from the linebackers in this one, but I wanted to highlight EJ Speed. It's very clear why he is a key backup for this team. I'd put him squarely at linebacker 4 for this team, the first backup to jump in there after those first 3, which is Harris, Azeez Al-Shire, and Henry To'o. Here's what I loved about Jaylon Smith's performance. Now, they threw the ball at him a couple of times, and there were a couple of catches where he was the nearest defender. One, I felt like maybe just watching the play a couple of times, maybe he ran the wrong coverage, but I don't know exactly what the play call was going to be, but it looked like he sagged off of a guy a little bit too much when maybe he should have been firing in on that player. But again, I don't know what the play call was, so it's hard for me to distinctly say that was the case on that play. There was the lucky guy on the Vikings had a big crosser catch on him. I'm not too worried about that because he's had some excellent coverage moments in camp. But what we noticed here in this game, Jaylon Smith, much like Kamari Lassiter, much like Derek Stingley, is not afraid to go in there and get his nose dirty in the run game. He came flying in a couple of different times to stick his nose in on the run game. Felt like that was a really good sign for a rookie cornerback, especially one that had played on a defense in college that wasn't known for their tackling prowess or success. So Jaylon Smith, with the tackling prowess, being able to get in there, stick his nose into the run game's business, I really like that about him. And that's one of those things that the Texans identify, and it's trending, that you've got to be an excellent tackler to be making your way up the depth chart at cornerback for the Houston Texans. We talked about those first drive studs. Dare Ogunbowale continues to earn trust. And this is a player that this organization trusts. They trust him to go out there and run the football when other guys aren't available. They trust him to go out there on special teams, both on the coverage and the blocking units. Like, they trust Dare Ogunbowale. And if you want his roster spot, you're going to have to pry it away from him. And he goes and shows that when he's running back 1 to start the day. And of the 74 yards on the drive, 29 of them come via Dare Ogunbowale. He ran physical. He ran hard. He hit holes. He had to make cuts to find those holes. Good job by the offensive line. But Dare Ogunbowale is going to be a tough player to get rid of because as an organization, he's been around the block. He's played a lot of football. You can trust him. Now, is the top end is exactly what the best case scenario of him? Is that a real high end player? No, but he's got a good solid floor. And again, you can trust him to execute what needs to be done when you ask him to do various things, from special teams coverage to special teams blocking to being a depth running back. And I do believe currently Dare Ogunbowale is on this roster. Now, is it going to be tough to stay on this roster? Probably, but that's all up to if Dameon Pierce is any good, when Nick Chubb returns, if he's good, when he gets back from his injury, and how much they trust Woody Marks to do some of the special teams things that Dare Ogunbowale does. If you thought Jaylin Noel was small or tiny, you're wrong. He's short, but he's not small. That was my favorite thing that Jaylin Noel showcased in this game. A couple of catches for him, but the third and long screen to Jaylin Noel where he just kind of bowled through a few Vikings defenders. I really liked that element because not only did Jaden Higgins look wider in person when he put the pads on, but Jaylin Noel, once you saw him in person, he never looked like a small wide receiver. Yes, he is shorter than a lot of wide receivers, but he never looked small. He's muscular. He's thickly built across the upper body, and he showcased that as he kept the legs churning and took some of those hits in this game and ultimately bowled his way through. Boiled his way through? That's not how you do it. You bowl your way through to that first down in that third and long sideways pass screen, whatever you want to call it. It's a great job by Noel. You keep seeing more and more things from him that you like. Maybe they're not trusting him as much day one, but you see the path to putting him on the field, certainly when you watch him play. It's good stuff from Jaylin Noel. Keep those comments, questions, joys, and concerns coming in. We'll get to as many as we can here after we finish up the 11 observations from the preseason game. John Metchie needs to put good tape together, and he continues to put some good tape together. Has had some nice moments in practice over the past few practices. Obviously was the leading receiver in this one. It's very difficult to see how John Metchie makes the 53-man roster because Nico Collins and Christian Kirk are obviously on this team. Jaden Higgins and Jaylin Noel are obviously on this team. Xavier Hutchinson has been better than John Metchie. Justin Watson has been as good, if not better, and plays more special teams. And Braxton Berrios plays more special teams. If they keep 7 and Metchie beats out Berrios, that's really the only way or the only outcome or the only path to me seeing him make the roster is if they kept 7 wide receivers and they kept John Metchie instead of Braxton Berrios. I don't believe they would do that. I don't know if they're going to keep 7 wide receivers because the roster crunch may dictate just keeping guys at other positions, but that's not a great spot to be in where that's your only way onto the roster because I just don't believe he can catch up and outplay many of the players that are ahead of him. So that he could guarantee himself a roster spot. But you put good tape on, maybe there's a trade opportunity, a swap of John Metchie for somebody else, or even if he just gets flat out waived, not brought back onto the practice squad by the Texans, maybe some organization out there would like to have a shot at John Metchie. But it doesn't seem like he's got a path to a roster spot here on the Houston Texans. Finally, I hated the draft pick when they made it, and it didn't look very good in a game. D'Amico Ryans said the words, hey, we'd like to see what happens when the lights come on. Graham Mertz had some nice moments in practice when the lights came on. Too big for Graham Mertz. A couple of really bad interceptions and one that wasn't quite his fault, but he didn't set his feet on a rollout. He threw it behind Xavier Johnson and threw a really bad interception. The second one was even worse as he just overshot everything, blew the pass, defense catches it easily. The third one got batted at the line of scrimmage and caught, so I don't blame that one. But I don't understand why Graham Mertz was ever on this team. I don't know why they used a draft pick on that player, and I know it's unlikely that a late-round pick at that spot finds themselves with an opportunity to make the team. I get that element of the conversation, but you did not need to draft Graham Mertz. It feels like he probably would have gone undrafted. If he does get drafted, get another quarterback as an undrafted free agent to add to the equation and give yourself one little scratch-off ticket with that 6th-round pick. The Ravens had a wide receiver that they drafted about 7 picks after Graham Mertz return a kickoff for a touchdown in the preseason. I mean, it just never made sense to have Mertz on the roster from a draft pick. If he was undrafted, sure, it made sense to have him here. But the Texans, again, Small chance that it even goes differently, that spot, that player even makes the roster, but they could have done something different with that Graham Mertz draft pick. Not good from Graham Mertz. That's the 11 observations from the preseason game. Let's get to some of your comments, your questions, your joys, and concerns, and then we will have a little conversation about CJ Gardner-Johnson. So I'll get through some of these questions here. Make sure I scroll up and get to maybe where we were. Jacob said he liked the run game being solid, like the play calling. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think that the third team, fourth team quarterbacks up and the offensive line deep down the depth chart executed very well. But there was some stuff to certainly like about that first team, and even maybe a little bit of the early Keaton Slovis work. Christopher's hyped about EJ Speed. James R. is not buying the Blake Fisher injury or the Blake Fisher trade to the Chargers to fix their injury situation. Mike Roberts, Smith definitely seems more like a Petrie than a corner. I don't know that I totally agree with that because he's been so good outside. And I know a lot of draftniks put him in the inside bubble and said, oh, yeah, he kind of needs to play inside. He wasn't great outside. But they clearly like him outside, and it feels very Kamari Lassiter-esque where, hey, this is a player that really needs to play inside. The Texans are like, we actually think he can play outside, and then he plays outside pretty well. Blake Fisher to the Eagles for their other safety. Come on now. Oh, man. Let's see here. Noel threw a good block or two. Also, he sure did. And Jaden Higgins had a couple of nice moments in the run game blocking as well. Oh, this is good, Kill X God. No, he Noeled his way through, Cody. Yeah, instead of bowled his way through, Jaylin Noeled his way through. I like that, Kill X God. That's good. That's good. Well done. Well done. Andrew Solis says, I hope running back British Brooks doesn't get cut. I swear I'd work him out at linebacker or defensive end, let him develop for a year on D. Yeah, but they tried him out at fullback, moved him back to running back. He seems to be a special teams player you can count on. And maybe that carves him out a role with the organization, practice squad player, or it's not crazy to think he could be on the 53. I just don't know if that's special team centric enough for that roster spot. If he gives you enough from a running back perspective that you want to keep him over, say, Adare Ogunbowale. So it would be tough for British Brooks, but could I see him sticking around the organization? Absolutely. Mike says, act like it's Madden, throw Metchie the ball all game, make him look good. Hell, include him with Fisher to the Chargers. Fisher to the Chargers is my favorite thing so far. Rick wants Cole Popovich to get after Blake Fisher a little bit more, turn on his angry mode. Yeah, I don't know. It may be too little too late here to separate yourself in the conversation on the offensive line. They've had some really impressive offensive line performances in practice and some good stuff in this game. So it may be too little too late. In Mertz's defense, he hasn't played meaningful football since October. That's certainly a fair defense. And he has had some nice moments in practice here or there. So this is something D'Amico Ryan said. He said, hey, we don't judge just preseason games. And it's hard to just, look at the preseason game and have it mean a lot of things, but they look at everything that a player does, from how they show up to the building, show up to practice, work in the meeting rooms, understand their playbook, how they practice, and ultimately how they play in the game. So it's never one thing in the evaluation process. I know sometimes you see a player have a great preseason in some preseason games, but they don't make the team. You're like, well, what happened? Well, it's probably some of the stuff away from the preseason games that gets them off the roster. Paulo Ferreira, I think it's Ferreira. Thoughts on Neiman? Special teams ace. Almost made that first special teams tackle coming down, but he slipped. And then I saw him talking to Frank Ross about, I would have made the play, but I slipped. I thought that was a pretty intriguing situation there to start the game. Had some moments from the linebacker spot. I just wonder if the roster number game squeezes him or Hansen out. Just because you've got the three starters and Azeez Al-Shaair, Henry To'oTo'o, Christian Harris. We talked about EJ Speed. That's 4. And I would tell you that 5 is probably the number at linebacker. So that's either a Hansen spot or a Neiman spot. I don't know how they get to this. They get to the 6th linebacker spot in building the roster the way they need to build the roster. So I'm not sure quite how they get there. Inferno Style wants to know if I'm buying or selling Ed Ingram stocks as our starting right guard. I'd probably buy this, though I do feel like the best starting right guard option is Titus Howard. Ingram's had some nice moments. There have been moments where he's clearly looked better than Scruggs. There's been moments where Scruggs has clearly looked better than him. But I would buy this because he has a chance. Like there's a path to him starting at right guard, whereas when Howard was at right guard, I would have told you there's no path for him starting at right guard. Jonathan says, Jaylin Noel will be a run-after-catch menace on a bubble screen, a play we all know and love that always flopped. Yeah, hopefully when the Texans run it with Nick Caley as the offensive coordinator, we like the timing and the players they throw it to a little bit more. Tovar asked, are we playing the starters next week? I would think you're going to see the starters in a game. CJ Stroud mentioned he wanted to play in some of the preseason just to feel the heat and know that you can get tackled instead of in practice where it's hands off, no touch. So, yeah, so I would think they play a little bit against the Panthers. Plus, it's the only home game in the preseason as well. Birdie says, Jaylon Smith is a baller. John Crumpler crying somewhere. Oh, no, was Crump not a Jaylon Smith fan? Brandon says, guys, we could have had Quinn Ewers. Yeah, hadn't been looking good for Quinn Ewers in the preseason. Not John says, who do you think are on the fence for getting cut on the offensive line? I mean, I would say Scruggs, Ingram, like kind of right there in that 8-9 territory, 9-10 category. Zach Thomas maybe gets the boot, and they could keep Robinson, Ursery, and Fisher, and then Titus is a backup tackle, but also a part of the guard conversation. So maybe Zach Thomas. So Ingram, Thomas, and Scruggs would be my on-the-fence guys. Process G, I missed the game. I was at work. What were the big takeaways? Hit that rewind button and you can find out. You have to get a screen to your 5th wideout. You just have to. Yeah, absolutely. Carl, first series was the best. Yeah, I'd love to have seen maybe just a tiny bit more of that group, but I certainly understand you had the scrimmage. You want to get more work for those deep down the roster guys because D'Amico Ryans mentioned going to be a lot less opportunity as they start to give more to what they consider the first team and the key backups for this team. He talked about that at the end of his press conference. He also talked about the situation with CJ Gardner-Johnson. He left the scrimmage on a cart. He was helped off the field. The initial report was that CJ Gardner-Johnson was done for the year. He would miss the season. That report was counteracted by various other reporters like Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, and Diana Rossini. And then D'Amico Ryans, after the preseason game yesterday, proclaimed CJ on his way back already.
CJ's in great spirits. He's doing well. I mean, we're all thankful that the injury is not as, extensive as it was first reported. So we are excited that, he'll be fine. Take some time. He'll continue to progress and get better. So, thankful to know we'll be seeing them back on the field this year. And always with all of my guys who are in any injury situation, it's about those guys, me caring for them, making sure they are in a good spot mentally and physically. And CJ, he's great. He wants to be around the team, still had a smile on his face. But he'll be back, so we're excited about that.
He'll be back. We're excited about that. So CJ Gardner-Johnson going to get the opportunity here for a return in the future. Now, when is that going to happen? It's a good question. It doesn't feel like it's immediate, so I wouldn't expect to see him for the rest of the preseason. Is there an outside chance he's ready for LA? Sure, but I would tell you be a little bit more cautious. You've got enough you could fill in for a game or two without CJ Gardner-Johnson. Don't rush him back and risk him getting more injured, but it's good to know that he's going to be back on some timetable for return. That's not been very publicly stated by anybody just yet. They were still going to be an elite defense without C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Obviously, it becomes a little bit easier to be an elite defense with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I like M.J. Stewart, but I'm not here to tell you that he's anywhere close to as good at what the safety position demands as what C.J. Gardner-Johnson is. He was really good for the Eagles last year. He could have been really good for the Houston Texans, and we'll have to see ultimately when he gets there. Obviously, Jimmy Ward's situation is complicated, not only from the multiple legal issues, but also an injury that he's recovering from. So Jimmy Ward is not an option anytime soon. Jalen Reed, the rookie safety from Penn State, has been hurt for a while now, so he is not an option for the Texans at safety right now. So they brought in a safety, Jalen Mills, brought him in and signed him 10th year in the NFL for Mills. Played last year with the Jets. So veteran, seen a lot of football, could be sort of the veteran and step in right away if you felt like you were comfortable with him doing that, or it could be the veteran that takes MJ Stewart's spot, and MJ Stewart steps into the C.J. Gardner-Johnson role while you await the return of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Obviously, Russ Yeast is on this team. Yeast was around the ball a little bit there in the preseason game. So, and be interested to see if he can increase his stock and potential to make this not only roster, and if he doesn't stick around with the organization. But a good C.J. Gardner-Johnson update from D'Amico Ryans. No timeline. But, I mean, goodness, week one, if he's on the field in L.A. against the Rams, that sure would be nice. And if it's even a few weeks after that or after the bye week, then so be it. At least he's not lost for the season. So that was nice to see from D'Amico Ryans. This is a great question from Doyle Keister. How many Jaylins do we have now? The Houston Texans have Jalen Petrie. They have Jalen Mills. They have Jalen Smith. They have Jalen Reed. They have Jalen Thomas. They have Jaylin Noel. There's lots of Jaylins on this team. Lots of J names on this team because Jaden Higgins is also on this team. Jake Hansen. J.J. Taylor, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I mean, just, I don't know, something about the letter J in Casario. It just, they stick. But lots of Jaylins, lots of different Jaylins. Jaylin, L-E-N, Jaylin, L-I-N, Jaylin, J-A-L-E-N. Lots of Jaylins. Jalen O-N, you know. Have you already started your list of J.A. names from college? Yeah, right? Patrick with all the J names. J.J. Taylor, Jackson Woodard, Jake Andrews, Jake Hansen, Jakob Johnson, Jalen Petrie, Jamal Hill, Jared Patterson, Jawar Jordan, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Hill, Jalen Noel, Jalen Smith, Jalen Thomas, Jimmy Ward, Joe Mixon, John Metchie, Johnny Johnson, Juice Scruggs, Jr. Tafuna, Justin Watson. Yeah. Paul, let's go Houston Jaylins. Exactly. Okay, here's what I want to see this week. A couple of practices, joint practice with the Carolina Panthers, and ultimately a preseason game with the Carolina Panthers. Joint practice, you're going to get a lot of one-on-ones. You're going to get some opportunities to really see what this offense can do against a defense that was not good last year, and then you're going to get a chance to see what this defense can do against an offense that was not good last year. So that will be a lot of opportunity, but then I want to see the ones play maybe 2 drives on Saturday against the Carolina Panthers. A couple of drives on Saturday against the Panthers would be nice to see. CJ Stroud and, I don't know that you need Nico Collins out there, but maybe Nico Collins, some Christian Kirk, Noel, Higgins, Hutchinson. Get those guys out there. If Chubb is back healthy, get him in there. If Damian Pierce is ready to go, get him in there. Get what you think is the starting offensive line out there. 2 series, regardless of the result, 2 series. Go out there, play them for 2 series. That's what I really like to see. Over the course of the week, when is Nick Chubb back? D'Amico Ryans said on Thursday that Nick Chubb is fine. He'd be back in a few days. When is Nick Chubb returning for the Texans? When can Damian Pierce make his actual practice debut, not just a walkthrough? When can Christian Harris do the same, make his practice debut, not just a walkthrough? When is Cam Robinson coming back, and how does that affect the shuffle along the offensive line? Does he slot in behind Ariante Ursery, in front of Ursery? Does Ursery go back to right tackle? The mixing and matching on the offensive line will be interesting to see here throughout the course of the week. That's what I really want to see over the course of this week. Maybe some guys come off the PUP list too. Derek Barnett, Foley Fanikasi, Danico Autry. See what a couple of those guys can bring to the table. I will finish up here for a few minutes for Q&As. If you have a super chat, go to the front of the line. If you're a member, get priority in the questions and answers. And appreciate everybody for watching and interacting in the chat. Not John says Jandry Jocker. Patrick says Jacody Stoots. Sean G. Hi, I'm Jaylin. This is my teammate Jaylin and my other teammate Jaylin. And over there is our other teammate Jaylin. Christopher says, I would like to see more swarming at the line without the starters. Yeah, see a little bit more juice from the depth guys. Patrick asked, does Metchie get traded this week? You know, if somebody called, sure, but I don't know that you'd go shop the guy. But is Carolina, it would make sense to put him back with Bryce Young if there were some opportunities there. But Carolina's had a couple of guys play well in camp. Read some Jalen Coker stuff. I know Hunter Renfrow is still in camp there, a guy that I still believe is a good football player for some reason. I can't exactly tell you. Mike says, I'm legally changing my name to Jaylin. Can you let Caserio know so I can get started on that contract? That'd be nice. Bryce Young's new offensive weapon, John Metchie. Yeah, just you could do a mid-practice jersey swap. Just do one of those. Cash Out says, I can 85% guarantee that all the negative Nick Chubb comments will be. Okay. Team player, Jaylin the second. Yeah, that's pretty good too. Mr. Robot says he thinks that Casario's gotten lazy with all the J names. It's Jaylin or Jaden or some variation of them. Birdie asked, when does joint practice start? It'll be Thursday morning. So 9 a.m., I believe, is the intended start time there for that joint practice with the Carolina Panthers. And they'll do plenty of stuff apart from each other. And then ultimately they will come together and you'll get some 1s-on-1s, 2s-on-2s, and some team stuff from the Panthers. But that gets going at 9 a.m. That is a joint practice. I do not currently have a way for anybody to go. But if I do, I will certainly let you know. Vigilante Williamson. Hunter Renfrow was him for the Raiders. Had some health issues, though. I'll be interested to see if Hunter Renfrow and some of those other slot guys on the Panthers can give Jalen Petrie some fits and if Petrie can go out there and cover him. Obviously, we know around the line of scrimmage, Petrie can do his thing, but see if Renfrow and some of those slot guys for the Panthers can get something going against Petrie and maybe give Petrie some good looks and help him get a little bit better in the coverage situation. Don't cut Caserio slack for the CJs and EJs either. Hex says, what do you think of Ingram and Andrews? I believe Andrews is going to be the starting center for this team. Jake Andrews is going to be the starting center for this team. And Patterson's going to be his backup. And Ed Ingram, for me, is probably lineman 9 or 10 right now. So if they only keep 9, he's off the roster. If he's the 10th guy, if they only keep 9 and he's the 9th guy, he's the last guy in. He really only can play right guard, and that's all he's done for the Texans right now. So Scruggs having the ability to play left guard, also play center and play right guard. Does that keep him over Ingram if the results are pretty similar or close? You know, it's certainly something to think about when they're trying to put the roster together. Luis Salas says, trade Kenyon Fisher, a.k.a. Blake Fisher, to the Chargers for a 6th-round pick. Oh, man, I don't know if I'm dumping him for a 6th-round pick. Only one day of joint practice is correct. Brantley says if they got all the best Jaylins, they'd win a Super Bowl. Probably not wrong. Jalen Hurts. Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, there's some good Jalen's out there. Max says, Cody, I wish you're still on the radio. You had good Astros takes, but you're killing covering the Texans. Mac, I appreciate you for the kind words. Astros, love to see them beat the Yankees. Wish they'd gotten a little bit more juice over the weekend out of that series. And will be fun to watch Bregman v. Correa from Minute Maid tomorrow. Mr. Robot, Jaden Ursery would have been an ideal name for an offensive tackle. 300 Ado. If Petrie can cover Renfro, we locked for the Super Bowl. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be able to cover Renfro. We'll see. Blake Fisher's now Blake Green. Not great. Don't want to be compared to that if you're Blake Fisher. Biggest difference in this year's and last year's preseason offense. A lot of quick game from this year. I mean, there's not as much explosive stuff. You'd still love to see an explosive play here or there, but a lot of quick game from the a lot of quick game from this year's offense versus last year. All Jalen team versus all J team. I think I'd probably take the J team, but the Jalen team would be strong. Like the J team, you could have some Jalens, but you could also have like a Jordan Mailata at left tackle, you know. Xavier Cernas, let's go see what Jalen Strong's doing. Yeah, no thank you. No thank you. Good to see that Trevor Lawrence is still garbage. Well, might be a little strong, but it hadn't looked good for Lawrence. So, all right, that'll do it for the show today. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Evening or afternoon practices for a couple of days from the Texans here to start the week. And then, so SNL will be adjusted a little bit there in the afternoon. So be on the lookout for that. But usually it's every weekday from starting live at 4:00. So don't miss out on that. The link to that description's down below. Oh, I meant to mention Platinum AC and Heating is the sponsor of this video. If you need an AC guy, you need the AC guy. That's Dwayne from Platinum AC and Heating. Numbers right there on the screen. Best in the business. Did my full air conditioner replacement from repairs to replacements to simple preventative maintenance. Dwayne at Platinum AC and Heating is your guy. So take down the number for any of your HVAC needs. Got some pick'em stuff that will get signed up here on the channel for a chance for you to win prizes. Got some Survivor stuff that we may put together. Maybe we just do a couple of Survivor pools. If you beat me, you win something. Maybe a fantasy league. We'll see. We'll see. Not totally sure about that, but maybe a fantasy league. But we've got plenty of weeks to figure that out. Lots of good stuff coming your way this week. Tonight on KHOU, myself, Landry Locker, be on with Jason Bristol and his crew after the news. So be tuned into that at 10:30. You don't want to miss it. Appreciate everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. We end the live streams the same way each and every time. I want you to eat good, sleep good, be good. Risque Barber at the buzzer. Looking handsome as always, brother. Appreciate you, man. Oh, man. Looking better than your fantasy team. Yeah. So my buddy Jeff had my big fantasy draft with him yesterday, and it didn't go so hot for Jeff. Not great for my team either, but, you know, I don't love Jeff's team. I never loved Jeff's team. But maybe this is the year. This is the year where we both get it done. Both get it done. Patrick says, day 20 of Cody not shaving till the Texans win the Lombardi. It will get trimmed up here in the coming days. Do not worry about that. So eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hip-hoppity, dip-doppity-doo.